Now I've got this windowsill to paint, but before I do this, I've got to sort this mess out. Hey guys, Justin here, and in this video we're going to look at replacing the sealant here where the windowsill is sealed against the wall. You can actually see that it's cracked, it's come away, and it looks pretty ugly, so we're going to sort that out right now. Now you might be able to see that there's a lot of sealant around this window. Now what I don't want to do is have to take the whole lot off and reseal it, because that's going to be quite a lengthy job. And a lot of this is already or is still in good condition, so taking that off would just be silly really. What I'm hoping to do is just to be able to cut this away here in a way that it just merges into the new sealant that I'm going to use. I'm certainly not going to make it as thick as it is here. It just looks ugly. It's a bit too thick. It's gone all black. So we're going to do it slightly differently. Now I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to need for this job, but I think I've got everything here that I'm going to need. So I've got some all-purpose filler, I've got some flexible decorators filler, I've got some flexible gap filler, I've got some cork, I've got some various scrapers to get all the paintwork off, I've got a brush to clean the area with, I've got a knife in order to cut the old silicone away from the windowsill. So I think this is pretty much going to be all I need. So as I've said already, I'm just going to cut this away here in a way that I can just blend the new sealant in. I don't want to start taking this out. I'm hoping I can just get away with cleaning this a little bit here. So let's get our knife and let's begin. So I've done my first cut here. I'm not going to see what it really looks like until I take this away. So let's get rid of this now. Let's scrape off that old sealant. Now you could use a knife here, but the only problem with this is you're not going to be able to get the knife flat on the windowsill, and you might end up cutting into the wood itself. So what I would advise is using a scraper like this. This is one I bought not too long ago, but it's got a rather sharp edge to it. So this way we can get right underneath that sealant. Okay, there we go. So we've got that sealant off there. Now the join isn't too bad. There's not a massive gap there at all. So you can actually see here this plastic strip has gone right into the wall. So that's really good news for me, because I can just take that silicone off of here and then I can just put a tiny bit of sealant back into there just to close that tiny little gap. But as you can see, it's not too bad. A little bit of sanding down and that will be spot on. I of course also need to do exactly the same thing here, so I'm going to get on with that right now. So we have got a much bigger gap here, so I'm going to need to do something with that. I don't just want to put sealant in there. What I think I'll do is actually put some polyfiller in there to take up most of that gap, and then just a little bit of sealant at the end. So I'm just going to get some of this flaky paint off now before I start rubbing it down. It's not too much on there, so it's not going to be a big problem, and quite quick to do really. There, that's good enough. So what I'll do now is just use a bit of 80 grit sandpaper just to smooth out that paint, because it is all chipped and rough and horrible. So when sanding this down, make sure you're really feathering it out, because once we put that top coat on, it wants to look completely flat without any rough bits where it's obvious you haven't sanded the paintwork down properly. There, that's starting to look a lot better. Can't feel that at all. So it's really important just to give the wall a bit of a sand as well, because you've got that same thing here where the sealant has taken the paint away. There, fantastic. So I've given it all a sand now, and that feels really nice and smooth. So the next thing is get a little bit of filler on the end here, and then I just need to let that go off before we put some sealant in. So just make sure we get all the dust out of this area, because this is where I'm going to put a bit of filler, as I've said, just to close that gap. So I'll just spray a bit of water into here, just gets the plaster a little bit wet, and it gives the filler a much better chance of actually sticking to this plaster here. Okay, that's good. Let's get a bit of filler in there. We just want to get a little bit in to there. I'm hoping this isn't going to take too long to dry. It is quite warm. There we go, just get that little bit of filler into there, and then we can leave that for a little while to go off. So that's the filling done. We're going to leave that for a while now, so once that's gone off, I can start looking at putting a little bit of sealant around there. I might put a little bit of smoothing filler just on here, as it looks a little bit rough, but we'll see how we go. But for now, good job. Okay, the filler's gone off, feels nice and hard. I'm going to give it a bit of a sand now, and hopefully we can finish this off and get some sealant all around this windowsill. So in order to sand this, I'm going to use a slightly lighter paper. I'm going to use a bit of 120. A bit of 80 grit's just going to be too coarse, and it's going to take too much away. And I reckon I'm going to be able to get this quite smooth, and maybe not need to put any smoothing filler on there. So what I might just do here is just run a bit of sandpaper like so at an angle, just to create a little bit of a groove or a gap at the bottom here, just so we can definitely get a bit of filler in there. Now I thought that was going to need a bit of smoothing filler, but that is pretty nice. That's really smooth there now. So once I've repainted that wall, you're not going to notice that whatsoever. Okay, so I've done the filling, sanded it down, it's all nice and smooth. We're going to clean it up, and it's now ready to be sealed again. Excellent. Now what we'll do, we'll just dampen it slightly, because although I've used a brush and got rid of all the dust, it still feels a bit powdery. So we'll get a damp cloth and we'll just give that a really good wipe. Now I have decided to use this Unibond acrylic filler. I've used it quite a few times now, and it does dry quite hard, but it does say that it's flexible. Now there's always going to be a little bit of movement where wood is involved, particularly on a windowsill around the edges. So I'm quite happy that the minimal amount of movement and the flexibility of this filler will help to stop it cracking, and hopefully I won't have to do it again too soon. So I've got the filler in the gun and we're ready to go. Now what I've done already here, this is from previous, is I've already taken the end off this nozzle. It's only a very small hole, and which is quite good really, because this gap is also very thin. That's all I'm going to need. So let's get this in there. Now I usually tend to use my finger if I'm using any kind of fill like this, but it's also good just to wet it slightly, and it just allows the filler to not stick to your fingers so much and give it a nice smooth finish. There we go, that's lovely. I've just blended it into the area there where this plastic bit goes against the wall, and also where we cut that silicone, and that looks really good. That's a really nice finish there. It's got a really nice finish all the way around now. This is going to be so much better. It's going to look so much neater, definitely. So there it is. That's looking a lot better now, as you can see. Now in my experience, you really want to leave this for 24 hours. If you put paint on it too early, what tends to happen, where the filler or the sealant is still shrinking, you start to get cracks on the paint that you put on top. So best thing is leave it, let it go off completely. So ensure you put a good primer on this. Do not try and put the top coat, the gloss or the satin straight on, because it just won't take it. Okay guys, so that's it from me now. Thanks for watching this video, and I do hope that it's helped in some way. Now if you want to see more videos just like this one, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon to ensure that you get notified when I release a new video. So if you've got any questions or comments, leave them in the box below. That'll be fantastic. Okay guys, I'm out of here. I'll see you on the next video.